The UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has condemned threats by Israel and the US to strike Iran. This comes after Tehran rejected as a political move the latest report by the IAEA, the atomic agency, which claimed the country has doubled its nuclear capacity. Well, for expert opinion on this story, I'm now joined live from New York by Eric Draitser. He's a geopolitical analyst for StopImperialism.com. Now, the report suggests there's a significant increase in Iran's nuclear capacity. Why does Tehran continue to expand its atomic program seemingly while already being battered with criticism for just having it?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. For the Iranians, first of all, they believe that they have the inherent right, according to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, that they have the right to have a nuclear program so long as it's for peaceful purposes, as is now accepted international law. So I think that's the first one. The second one, of course, is the geopolitical reality that they look around them, you look at the map, and they see that they are surrounded literally on all sides by the United States or various allies of the United States. And the principle is quite clear that the United States will invade nations that do not have the threat of nuclear weapons, and the United States does not invade the nations that do have that threat. So, in other words, the Iranians do it partially for self-preservation. They also do it for propaganda purposes and to lend themselves clout on the world stage.
Now, some experts think that the timing of the report is suspicious, while Iran said it was issued to shift the media focus away from the Non-Aligned Movement Summit. But what would be the point of that? After all, that was a pretty important, it is a very important summit going on.
Yes, of course. And the fact of the matter is the United States and Israel, to a large extent, are terribly embarrassed about the fact that the Non-Aligned Movement Summit, which is happening in Tehran, has gone off as a tremendous success. And the fact that many around the world are seeing the NAM Summit as really Iran's coming out party in terms of geopolitics, in terms of their position on the world stage. And so the timing of the report, I think, is in fact dubious. And I would go further and remind people that the IAEA in many ways is part of what the leader in Iran called the overt dictatorship of the United Nations. That is to say that the IAEA is always led by U.S.-produced think tank individuals like El-Baradei or his predecessors, who will inevitably execute the agenda of the Western powers, regardless of whether that contravenes international law.
Tensions are really building now with talk of some sort of military action against Iran. The US military chief, though, has said he does not want to be complicit in the strike on Iran. But do you think if Israel does actually decide to go ahead with an attack, would Washington support it?
Well, I think that that would be, in that case, I don't know that I could necessarily answer whether they would or they won't. I personally don't think that that's a possibility. The Israelis, though they are led by reactionary right-wing, what can we say, lunatics in many ways, like Netanyahu and people like this, I don't think that they're irrational, nor do I think Iran is irrational. And I think the Israelis, and if we read the quotes from some of their military leadership, they'll say it outright that Israel has no intention of bombing Iran unilaterally. This is merely the talking point that Netanyahu likes to hammer home for demagogic purposes. The United States will not sanction any war on Iran, that is, until they have all of the necessary steps leading up to that. And Syria is an integral part of this. There would be no attack on Iran without the prelude of an attack on Syria, breaking Iran's alliance with Damascus and with Hezbollah and Lebanon. So I think that it is part of a larger strategy that we're seeing in the region, the attack on the Shiite arc of dominance that stretches from Tehran to Baghdad to Damascus and to Beirut. And without that, you will not see the attack on Iran, regardless of what Israel has to say.
All right. No attack, but certainly a lot of rhetoric and a lot of pressure on Iran. What should it do now to try and ease that pressure? What is its policy now for the future to get, in effect, countries off its back?
Well, I think that part of what they're doing is asserting themselves on the world stage. That's what we're seeing with this summit in Tehran right now, showing that they can be a force for peace. For example, the proposal that was put forward by the leader Khamenei, I believe yesterday, regarding Palestine and how to resolve that issue, trying to make the world see them as a constructive partner rather than as some kind of a loose cannon, the way they're characterized by the United States and Israel. Secondly, I would also add that Iran is moving towards major economic development with some of its key regional allies. We saw this meeting between Ahmadinejad and Prime Minister Singh of India regarding the Chabahar port, regarding a number of other bilateral trade issues. We see the same thing happening between Iran and Egypt. We see the same thing happening with the Chinese. So they reach out to their partners, their non-aligned partners, I suppose we could say, and find ways around the sanctions and find ways of getting themselves into these mutually beneficial economic arrangements that will make it near impossible for the Western allies to attack them, lest they upset the world balance and the economic order.
Eric Draitser, geopolitical analyst for StopImperialism.com, joining me live in New York. Thanks very much for your time.